In life, we encounter people every day, all of whom have stories to share. We rarely take the time to ask people their personal stories, many of which will touch, move, and inspire us in some way. Matt has a passion for making authentic connections and learning about people from all walks of life. He has lived a life of giving back to the community and making a difference in people's lives. Are you ready to meet fascinating people and hear some inspiring stories? The Matt Hilton Show will introduce you to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Sit back, be present, and enjoy. Here's your host, Matt Hilton.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in today. This is Matt Hilton, the host of the Matt Hilton Show. My guest today is a great friend of mine. She lives on a ranch. She has been a world traveler, and she has experienced grief in her life, and she's going to share a big part of her story with us. You don't want to miss this episode. Please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for a word from our sponsor.
With almost 20 years of real estate experience in the North Texas area, the professional realtors at Hilton Realty Advisors have helped over 500 clients with their housing needs. Hilton Realty Advisors covers all areas of real estate: buying, selling, building, investing, and renting. We deliver the keys to homeownership to all through integrity, love, and joy. Call us today for all of your real estate needs.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton here, the host of the Matt Hilton Show. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest is a great friend of mine. I think we've known each other for, almost 15 years. And she is past president of the Junior League of Collin County. She is a world traveler. She's done a little bit of everything, and we're going to hear more about her story. Let's welcome Ronelle Ianace. Ronelle, thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored to be sitting here with you, Matt. I truly am. Thank you for asking.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you had a journey to get down here today.
Everything I do and touch is a journey, that is for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, 15 years.
We were just talking about those years, and they've flown away. Although I feel like you've been in my life a long time. Oh. And it's been a great last 15 years for sure.
It has been. Yeah, there's been a lot that has happened in both of our lives over that span of time. And so for my audience, and for me, because I don't know a lot about you, so tell me a little bit about who Ronelle is and like some of your history.
Well, we all have that, right?
We do.
Well, I'm an Air Force brat. Okay. So I was raised across the country, born in South Carolina. I have Southern bred and Southern born parents. Mm-hmm. So I truly am a Southern girl, and I consider Texas the South, don't you?
Of course. Yeah.
So I've lived, in multiple states, but also in Japan. We spent 3 years in Japan, so I got a little dose of somebody else's culture outside of the South.
Right.
But we moved to Texas when I was 12, moved to Austin. That was Dad's last station, and he retired out of Austin and moved his family to North Texas. So I've been in North Texas since I was 16.
Okay.
And it's been a ride since then. You know, my dad was an entrepreneur, and when you ask me, what are we going to call you? I mean, what is your title?
What's your title?
And you've known me in a lot of different, phases of my life for sure. I would say an entrepreneur. Although currently I'm a co-owner of a business. But my dad was an entrepreneur, came out of the Air Force and opened a florist and gift shop. Now, he was a big bully colonel guy. So he wasn't, he wasn't a flamboyant florist, but the man wanted a business. He knew business. It was just in his gut. And he wanted to raise his family in a small town. So I really consider being raised in Denison, Texas, which is where I graduated from high school.
Okay.
And I divert, that was 50 years ago. Okay. So I will be attending my 50th high school reunion this summer, and I'm on the committee, of course. Actually, no, it'll be this fall in Denison, in Denison, Texas.
Yeah. There is no way that you've been graduated for 15 or 50 years.
50
it's more like 15
years.
Is what I was thinking.
I know. I was 16.
Yeah.
So I was a youngster.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, for sure. I was really young. But the town itself offered such a great place to raise a family. And with him opening the business, it was really where I got my ground in entrepreneurialism, in how to start a business from scratch. I mean, we had to do everything. I had to do the books. I had to arrange flowers. I had to greet a customer and take an order. I had to deliver. And one of the things, though, that I really got from him was his, well, it really wasn't knowledge, but because it was so easy for him, but he was involved in our community. And he showed me what it meant to be a friend to your customer, but also how to treat a customer, of course, but also how to give back to that community through the things that he did.
And you've definitely done that. I have been a witness to that. And she has done a phenomenal job of giving back to the community and being involved in charitable organizations, raising tons of money for great benefits, and for children. You have a passion for children, is what the theme that I've seen through your
There has been a lot of that. And then there's been a lot of things you probably haven't seen too. But yes, in Collin County, of course, through the Collin County Children's Advocacy Center, I co-chaired really with Craig Perry, one of their biggest fundraisers ever. I think it was the first time that Collin County had raised $1 million in one night. Now, it wasn't me. It was a whole team of people, and there was a capital campaign going on at the same time, which is when my dear friend Linda Pauck was chairing that. And so we became, incredible friends through that initiative. But the initiative is for the cause. And in that case, to raise money for the children that are going through just some horrific situations, but needed safe places to go, to come out of those situations. That was really dear to me. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Junior League of Collin County does so much for children. I mean, serves other agencies in Collin County. Not all children, but, touches a lot of kids through City House, through Children's Medical Center, and the Advocacy Center as well.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So as far as your father, I want to get back to his business. Were you the one arranging the flowers? Did he arrange the flowers? How did he choose a floral shop?
I will tell you how he did it. And he really taught me a lot of grassroots marketing from this. Okay. He's from a very small town on the other side of the Red River in Oklahoma, called Buckcheetah, Oklahoma. And he had two dear friends that were living in Denison that had raised their families up in Denison, Denison Sherman is really kind of the Texoma land, and they're on Lake Texoma. I mean, it's a wonderful community anyway. And he went and talked to those friends, those men that he had gone to college with, that he was raised, with, and one of them was a banker, and the other had an insurance agency in town. And he sat down with them, and he said, "What does this town need? I just know I want to have a business. I don't really care what it is, but I need to know, what do they need?" And they came back and said, "We need a good florist in town." This is way before Albertsons and Walmart carried flowers, and that's where you stopped, or even CVS, that you would stop and get a card and a rose, on your way going home. Way before that didn't exist. In fact, Walmart wasn't even in Denison at the time. And I don't even know what the grocery store. Oh, we had the Pig. We had Piggly Wiggly, of course, yes. And a few others. Safeway. We had Safeway too. So yeah, it was so special. No, he did not know how. He and my mother were married at the time, living in Austin, and they went to, don't remember who it was, but someone in San Antonio, and began to take some courses. Now, my mother was a natural artist. It was very easy for her to pick that up. He was more interested in the infrastructure behind it, what it was going to take in order to build it and get it open. So he came to town and talked to some other folks and hired the right people to help us get open. And, the rest is history. And when I talk about history, Castleberry Florist was open 50 years. No, that's not true. About 47 years. They closed 47 years ago and sold the assets to another florist in town.
Wow.
So even though my father sold the florist along the way, his name was kept for the remainder of the lifetime of that company. And that was a true testament as well to building a name. building a brand and making sure that your name, stayed first and in the forefront of the business.
Yeah.
And I really learned to, maintain that as well. Or
Yes.
to take that to heart, that your name means everything.
It does. It does. And what you're describing to me, the word that comes to mind is legacy.
Yes.
Like he built a legacy not only with the company,
Yeah.
but also with the name, and it passed down to you because you have built a legacy.
Well,
And I feel like that people know you, and they know that if Ronelle is in support, if she is on your side, they have got the best cheerleader, they've got the best person that they could have. I mean, seriously, like
you're so
I met you when we were, I was working on the silent auction of Star Children's Charity. And we were working together, and I was immediately attracted to what you were doing, how you led us. And it was a great experience. And you got me interested in doing that for other organizations.
Well, Matt, but you took it further. I remember the first time that we sat down and had a one-on-one meeting, and you said, every time I sell a home, I'd like to donate a dollar amount to Star Children's Charity. And that meant the world to us, that you gave back almost immediately, because you were fairly new in your career, if I remember right. You were really launching your career up in McKinney, your real estate career up in McKinney. Yeah. So I will never forget that meeting. I will never forget your kind-heartedness and your gratitude to give back from that perspective as well.
Wow, thank you for remembering that.
You're so welcome.
Because that is a part of what I do. And I still do today.
There you go.
And so...
And that's why you have the business you have, the reputation you have, and the legacy that you are building too.
That I'm building.
Yeah.
For my 4 kids that we spoke about
For your
earlier
4
that
kids.
have grown up
That's
so
right.
much over the past 15 years that we've known each other.
Yeah,
right? So,
that's right.
Yeah, so you are now living on a ranch.
Yeah, lots
How was
happened
ranch life?
since back then. Oh, ranch life is fabulous, but I should say because when they say when you say but, it kind of erases
Negates everything before,
it negates everything before that. We don't want to negate.
That's
We don't want to negate my life because I've had an amazing life. But yes, so things changed for me. Oh, let me circle to the ranch. Let me get to the ranch.
Get to the ranch, okay.
By backtracking a little bit because. Once I moved to Dallas, I loved being in North Texas and being in the family business and all, but I had a little itch that I kind of needed to go out on my own at some point and see if I could go find my own fortune, even though Dad had built that for us, So I moved to Dallas and went into corporate America. So I don't even know how much of this that but a lot of my story, it just shows how God takes you down a path, and sometimes you don't know why or how. I mean, how would I know? I was working for GTE and working in telecommunications, and then that would go upside down. Everything went upside down in telecommunications, right? And where that would take me into having my own consulting practice and learning, taking some of my entrepreneurial, that I'd learned and moving into that. And then, how that would take me, that gave me flexibility to be able to give back to the community and to be able to serve and do a lot of volunteering, from that perspective. And all during that time, well, I had a little practice marriage in there. Let me just say that.
Practice marriage.
But I had a little practice marriage in there once I moved to Dallas. But I met, what and my current husband would understand that I would say at the time was the love of my life. So I married Pete Ianace, and we had the amazing support I had from that man in every step of the way through corporate into my own consulting practice, by the way, which I wouldn't have been in that consulting practice had that man not looked at me one morning, and I think you'll understand this. We'd only been married a couple of years, maybe one. And he said, we usually got ready in the mornings together, and he looked at me and he said, I really didn't marry you to see you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and work until the minute that you had to go to the office and come home and work until the minute you needed to go to bed so you could get up and do that all over again. He said, I married you to have some time with you. Now, a lot of women would say that to a man. This is an executive level telecommunications president saying that to a wife. And I said, I would, oh my gosh. I didn't realize that. Because my practice marriage, you go do whatever you want, right? In this case, no, this was a man who wanted a relationship and wanted to do things together. He wanted to have that camaraderie and that companionship. So I immediately said, I will quit my job today and I will open my own consulting practice. I didn't know what I was getting into. But the thing was, at the time, the telecommunications industry was exploding and there were not enough people to fill the jobs that were out there. So the largest telecommunications companies were outsourcing marketing and business development, which is what I did, and product development, which is what I did. And so he said, then I'll give you your first contract. I said, okay. And do you know, that changed my life, from that moment on. So, I built a telecommunications practice and had companies like AT&T and Sprint and Bell South and Southwestern Bell as my customers, as my clients, as my business clients at the time.
May I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
I'm big on life transitions and what people go through. Mm-hmm. That was a life transition for you. So what was going through your mind? I mean, it sounds like it was, I'll just quit my job today. What else went through your mind as you made that decision that day? Did you feel like you were giving up anything? Did you feel like you were gaining everything?
Well, for me, he was the priority, right? So I would make him the priority and I would figure it out. And I just believe that in life that's such a great question. You do look at, because I would have normally answered, well, you just walk through the door that's open, I don't believe in tearing down the doors that are closed. Well, I didn't have any closed doors. But this was a prioritizing how I wanted to live my life and then what would it take in order to do that. So, okay, I made that the priority. Here's what it's going to take. And I had confidence enough and I had enough relationships because I had grown up. My corporate jobs were all in telecommunications. And I want to say I'd grown up in that world as it was built out in Richardson and Telecom Corridor. I mean, I watched that whole place be built. Right. And I was so blessed to be a part of it. And even some of the folks that, we did that. I say we did that together back in the 80s, are still dear friends of mine because we did it together. And we did work 18 hours a day. And we worked together and we were friends and it was just, it worked. And we built those companies to be where they are. So I knew I had the relationships and I knew the market. So I knew the market was exploding and I could get a job. If I wanted a job, I could have that in, a day. So then I had my contract there on the spot, right? I had my first contract. So
yeah, and you had a supportive partner.
And I had a supportive partner. Absolutely, that was a part of it. And he was probably my biggest cheerleader, for the whole 30 years that we were together. Yeah. Everybody would say, oh my gosh, I feel like I know you because all he does is talk about you and your accomplishments and whatever. Well, he was just a great guy. It wasn't that I was that great. He was just a great guy. Let me just tell you. Yeah. So that's how we did it. And I would say he fed me through that whole process because what happened in that process is telecommunications had a bust and a .com bust as well. So all of this build out that these companies were doing where they were building out the internet and digital technology was taking over, did it too fast. They did it with VC money that was easy to get. So they didn't do it right. And as you know, companies that didn't exist, the biggest companies in the NASDAQ went under. So what happened? I was starting to lose contracts. Now what do I do? See, my whole thing is you got to pivot. You just stop and say, what resources do I have? Well, now I had relationships with all those companies. What did they have? They had too much inventory. They had bought companies that had gone under. So now they had that inventory there. There were companies I knew of that had gone under. They had inventory that needed to be sold. So I pivoted that consulting, sales, and product development into reselling surplus equipment.
Oh, interesting.
And yes, so I did that for corporates, for a number of years. And again, that was giving me flexibility in my day and my time, which I loved. But then I was tapped to be the president of the Junior League of Collin County. And that really did require, yes, I wanted to continue my business, but I also needed to give a few more hours a day. I really needed everyday time with that organization in that leadership role. So we opened, and I say we, Pete and I had a couple of other partners, we opened an eBay drop-off store. So if you think about the pivot there, it was a natural evolution because it was selling big equipment to now we're selling consumer equipment. So we're repurposing people's consumer equipment and turning that into cash for them. And I did that in Plano, which gave me kind of a home base. And I was, had my office in there, and then I went back and forth to the Junior League office for a couple of years. Yeah. And
when did you have time for building a family?
Well, the Ianaces are a big family, and a big Italian family, and Sundays was always get-together day. So there was always Sunday for, making sauce and making sure that there was pasta on the table, and they came to us or we came to them, but more often they came to us. So there are 3 kids and 8 amazing grandkids today.
8 grandkids.
8 grandkids.
What are the age ranges?
Today.
Like
from you put me on the spot. 24 to the youngest is 9.
Wow, 24 to 9.
Oh no, she's not 9. That's not the. She's 6.
Okay.
Sorry, that's the next to the youngest.
I put her on the spot. My fault.
Yeah. Have to think. Well, I stopped there. I forgot. I didn't forget about her. She's one of my favorites.
Right.
The girl's my favorite. I'll just say that right now. The girls are all my favorites. So she's one of my 3 girl favorites.
How do you spoil them?
Oh gosh. Well.
Because I know you have to spoil them.
Well, I used, when I lived closer in, Plano Frisco days, I spoiled them. It's really all about the meals. I know that's kind of crazy, but it's really all about the meals. So I introduced them to a lot of Southern food, let me say that.
Okay.
And so my oven fried chicken on a bone, chicken legs, and deviled eggs always had to be on the table pretty much every time we got together.
Okay. Yep. I love Southern food. I love breakfast food. I could eat that at any point of the day.
Oh gosh,
right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I have, biscuits and gravy. I mean, I have sausage gravy that I've made frozen in my freezer right now. So, yeah, I still do that at the ranch. But let me just brag on my oldest granddaughter. This has just really been special. Is engaged, and she and her fiance have bought a home, their first home, in my hometown of Denison. Never expected that. She was raised in Plano, Frisco, and parents moved to McKinney. So she was raised in Collin County, right? Went to private school in Dallas, went to UT, School of Business, McCombs. I mean, she's just as smart as a whip. But I expected these Italians stay really close together. Never expected her to move away, or any of them to ever move away. We'll see what happens to the next one. Right. But it's not really away. She's clocked it. It's 35 minutes to North McKinney, where her parents live. Okay. So anyway, it's so nice to have her there. She's been there since mid-February. So, we get together once in a while, which is nice because I'm kind of away from the kids right now.
So on the wedding, does she have a date set yet?
She does. She'll be getting married early next year in McKinney. It'll be just a great family affair. I mean, the Italians love to get together. They'll come in from all over. It'll be so fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we're excited.
We're planning one for our oldest daughter. She's getting married in November of this year, and So yeah,
Okay.
it's fun. It's interesting. She's actually doing her wedding in College Station,
Oh,
which is
wow.
where she goes to college, and so it's a long distance for us to go and plan.
So it is
but
kind of a destination wedding then,
for
right?
us,
Yeah.
but for her, she was like, I asked her, so why do you want to have it in College Station? All your family's up here. Like, why wouldn't you want to have it here? And she said, because I don't want to have to drive to my own wedding.
Oh.
And I said, well, okay then.
Hey,
You
you're
know,
going to do it
it's
her way
her
no
day.
matter what.
That's
That's
right. It's
exactly
her
right.
day.
And you're such a great dad. So that'll be so fun.
It's fun. It's
Weddings
been fun
are
so
fun.
far. Yeah.
Good, as long as you can keep the stress out of it. Yes.
Yeah, we're doing our
Get
best.
the drama out. And
Yeah.
they're awfully fun.
Yeah, for sure. So something new we're starting today is
Yes.
show and tell. And so I'm going to start asking my guests and to bring something that brings them joy from their home. So when they're walking around the house and they see this item, what is it? And I want them to bring it to the studio and do a little show and tell. It's kind of nostalgic. We did that in school, right? So I wanted to ask you to bring something that is that brings joy to your life. And so what do you have to show and tell us about today?
Well, anybody that knows me knows that Jesus Christ brings joy to my life, and knowing him is joy. So, of course, I have a Bible that is pretty big and bulky. Every time I look at it, it brings joy. But I also have a number of daily readings. And I pulled one this morning because I thought the wording was just perfect. It says, our daily bread. And I think it just truly represents what God has for us. And whether you get that piece of bread or that nourishment that's going to sustain you for the day out of your Bible, whether you get that through prayer, whether you get that through reading a verse or reading an inspiration or some kind of message, that's what is most important to me. And that's what brings joy to me.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. So I see you have a bookmark. Is that on today's?
It is actually. It is, and it was about waiting, and that's hard, right?
It is, especially in the society we live in. Everybody wants everything now, right?
Exactly.
So, is there a portion of that you can read to us?
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because the writer here, the author, I guess I should say, mentions the play Waiting for Godot. And I never have seen it, but he talks about how it starts with these two people on stage and they're waiting for Godot, and then they go into the play, but you never really know, even until the end and through the end, who Godot is or what they were waiting for. So the message is, we know what we're waiting for. We are waiting for, our relationship with Jesus Christ to become, come to life either in heaven or he comes down for us. So it says to read Titus 2, 11 through 15. And and also it quotes Philippians 3:20. Our citizenship is in heaven, from which we also eagerly wait for the Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Yes. So, I thought that was really good because we do know what we wait for. Right. And we do, some of us wait impatiently for that. Having lost my husband 3 years ago, I initially said, I had to just take a deep breath and say, okay, Lord, he got to go, but you've left me here to wait. Now, what do you want me to do with this time that you've left me here on this earth?
Wow. That's deep.
I guess it is, because I don't feel like I'm that deep, but I absolutely went there. If I didn't go there, I would be one of those individuals, and I don't categorize everybody as this, because it's very easy to get into that muck and get stuck and say, my life it will never be the same. You want it to be the same. It will never be the same without your life partner that you've lost and your heart is broken over it. You'll never go the same places. Circumstances will never be there. I mean, it has to be different. And when I reflected on that, I thought, okay, God, I'm here. I'm not up there where I really want to be. I want to be there with, with Dad and Mama and Betty and, and everybody that's gone before me. And of course, Pete. But what do you have here for me? And there we go into that. What door is open? What do I have? And every time I've made a change in my life or those career changes, I look at what resources did I have. And I think you heard me kind of say, okay, well, I knew this and I knew that and I knew this priority. And you just stop and assess. Well, what was interesting about Pete's passing is that he got sick he was diagnosed with cancer about a year earlier. Mm-hmm. He didn't die of cancer, but we don't have to talk about that. He died from more chemo than he was supposed to have. Mm. Okay, but anyway, my sister and I had opened a boutique, a brick and mortar store. We'd gone from an online, I should back up. We'd gone from a mobile boutique that she'd started in California to me leaving the corporate world and leaving my time in the nonprofit world and saying, let me just put this online because everything was going online at that time, to, oh dear, Mother is not well. Sherry, that's my sister, you need to move to Mississippi and we need to open a boutique there. Yeah, where'd that come from? But the Lord had also provided, my sister and I bought 2 homes in Mississippi, 2 family homes there. We moved my mother in one, my sister moved into hers. Mm-hmm. We just used them, for vacations, and opened a boutique there. Mother, when we learned that Pete was ill, said, we all need to move to Mississippi, to move back to Texas. And so Sherry and I were like, what? And I said, Mother, Pete just has cancer. What are you talking about? We all need to be there. Pete's sick. I go, no, we all need to go to Texas. So we looked for a place, and here comes Denison again. That hometown, just that was ingrained in us, the foundation that Dad had set. And of course, we'd been visiting Denison for years because we go back and visit Dad when he was still here. And Sherry went and sister found the perfect location in Denison for us to move the boutique to Denison. I lived in Collin County, of course, and it was easy for me to get up there, moved Mother in with me at the time. Then it just all worked out so that when Pete passed, I had a business already an hour away. I moved up there to where my business was and kind of resettled my life. And it just all was there in front of me. And it just goes to look and see what resources you have. So when times change, circumstances change, when the world goes upside down, which it will, and it has, what's your next step? I wouldn't say go into foreign territory, but go into common territory. Go where your support system is. I had a built-in support system there. We had a business. We had friends. Family, is an hour away, and it was absolutely the right thing to do.
Did you ever look back at the time where your mom was insistent on moving here and you were giving some pushback and going, he just has cancer, as I heard you say, and wonder if you didn't do as she suggested of moving everything here, how that life would have looked like?
Yeah, I'm not one to second guess anything in my life. Nothing. Have I made mistakes? Yes.
Sure.
Do I regret some of those mistakes? Yes, but I've been forgiven for those mistakes. But I don't second guess, because if I hadn't gone through the mistakes I've made, I wouldn't be where I am. You have to have failures. You have to make mistakes to learn and then have success and progress on the other side of that.
That is huge. That is huge, because so many people fear failure.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the ultimate failure is not trying, not giving it a shot, right? So I love hearing that message that you just gave to the audience, right? Of you have to have those failures, you have to have those mistakes in order to progress and be successful.
You have to.
As long as you learn from those.
As long as you learn from them. And I've learned from personal, the way I may have treated someone, and not with intent, but now I have a completely different relationship, with the same circumstances. So it's with people, it's with financial decisions, it's with a business decision, of course. It's with my relationships with my spouse. Of course, I've learned from those. And it's definitely what's gotten me here today. I wouldn't be where I was without failure.
Yeah.
None of us would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think any of us, well, I guess you could be born with a silver spoon and just, never have a stressful day and never have a trip. But I'm going to
I don't know that ever happens.
I'm going to fall in the hole. I may break my leg. I may get muddy, but I'm going to crawl out of it. I'm going to say, I'm not going to step in that hole again.
That's right.
And that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because a lot of times too, and you may or may not agree with this, but we do look at people from the outside and think, oh, they've got that silver spoon, or oh, they've been given so many blessings and they're so fortunate. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We don't know what goes on inside of that person.
That's right.
Right? And so I have learned through the years that we have to get to know people, right? And that's one reason I do this show, is to get to know people. Because a while ago when you were telling me about your work history, you said that you worked at GTE.
Yes.
A lot of my listeners and viewers probably don't
even know
what GTE is.
Showing my age.
My grandmother worked at GTE.
No way.
At the there was a Garland branch.
I worked out of that office. I married somebody out of that office. That was my practice marriage.
I just got chills.
Yes.
Yeah. Her name was Peggy Adams. But she was there, and that's where she worked when I was a young kid.
I'm certain our paths would have crossed.
Probably so.
Yes.
Probably so.
That is a wonderful
again,
story.
having the conversation, if I wouldn't have had you here, I wouldn't have had that connection, right? So I believe wholeheartedly in, we have to take time to get to know people.
Yes.
And not just judge them and view them from what we see or what we hear. Like, they can tell us whatever we want to hear. It's drilling down and peeling back those layers of the onion, right, to get to the core.
There are families, particularly in Plano, and I can say this because I lived in Plano for 30 years, and I know those families. So it's just my personal, I shouldn't say particularly in Plano, because they're everywhere. But that looks so perfect, right? That West Plano bubble that many of us lived in. And I could tell you that I thought they were perfect until I maybe got into, I've done some volunteering in the ministry area, right? And I got into such circumstances, and I heard their testimonies. And I heard of what heck that a family has been through because of poor decisions a child had made, right? Those families losing their children because of poor decisions children are making, right? And that's just becoming more and more. That's how sad that is.
Right.
But yes, until you really, it's not what it looks like on the outside. It is absolutely, life is what the reality is what it is on the inside. And that's where the hurt and the pain and the learning comes from, though. That's where life's learnings comes from, is from what's on the outside and not on the outside. Yeah. Let it just roll off.
It's what's on the inside.
It's what's on the inside.
Yeah.
I may have said that wrong. Yeah, it's what's on the inside for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's show. Make sure you tune in next week for the second part of Ronelle Ianace's story.
If you'd like to contact Matt or know a fascinating person with an inspiring story that would make a great guest, reach out to the show at themattHiltonshow@gmail.com.